unfair of us to allow ourselves to live that way when we deserve, as one of my characters would say, instead of feeling navy blue, we deserve to feel lemon yellow. And that's where they're headed.
That's a definite purpose. It seems
Well,
like,
I would hope so.
Right.
Yours does.
Yeah.
Everybody's does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in human behavior and what makes us tick.
Right.
And in fiction, you know, you write about people who are going through something. I try to write about realistic people going through real problems. And in real life, this is what we have to deal with. You know, stuff happens. And, you know, to me, our lives are a bunch of hills and valleys. And the hills are the high points, but when those valleys hit, they seem to last longer, don't they? And I'm just interested in how we handle the knots, as I call them. In fiction, to me, our lives are a series of knots. And how we unravel them, to me, determines the quality of our life or our lives. And sometimes it's difficult. So I try to pick people that may be victimized, but they are not victims. Because if they're victims, they're passive. And passive people react. They are not proactive. And they bore me. And as black people, we're strong people. And so I'm interested in showing us going through really tough things and tough issues. But my turf is emotional. That's what interests me, because if you are feeling messed up inside, if your heart has been broken, stomped on, and crushed, or you lost something that you loved and you thought you couldn't live without, you have to learn, you have to muster up all kinds of stuff. And God can help, but God gives us the strength, as far as I'm concerned, to go forward. But some of us don't know how to do that. I don't necessarily have the answers, but all I know is that we all have it in us to go forward. And I'm interested in how we do that.
Now, you pushed the forward past that several people to getting a lot more people involved. You started writing libraries, organizations, and started doing more speeches across the country. So you became proactive to get more listeners to your readers.
You know, I'll put it this way. When I wrote my first novel, Mama, and I thought, like a lot of the white authors who were my age, my colleagues, and I thought that, you know, they were all going on talk shows and book tours. And I just knew that was going to happen to me too. And then my publicist said, "No, Terry, we're only going to be able to do the press releases." And I said, "What? If this isn't racist?" And I told him, I said, "This is some racist shit." And you know what? Guess what? My mama didn't raise a dummy. And so my son he was 9 months old. I was a single mom, and I was living in Brooklyn. And I found this book called How to Be Your Own Best Publicist or something like that. And I just implemented a lot of the things that they had suggested you do. And I added more to it because I work in the word processing department at a law firm. And everybody there in the mail room, they were black. Let me tell you, they took care of me. I didn't have to buy a penny for a stamp. I said, how to merge. So I would do these mail merges. I had my baby. He knew how to throw an envelope in the Safeway bag or whatever. And you know, he was 2. Yeah. And I was like, "Here, Solomon, take another one." "Okay, mommy." He did that 3,000 times, right? But the bottom line is that I ended up embarrassing the publicity department because I couldn't quit my job yet, but I ended up only working 4 days a week, and back then we weren't emailing yet and all that. And I had to send my itinerary. I wrote colleges, places that had reading series, and asked if they would be interested. I wrote the buyers of all the major chains, and I wrote every black bookstore in this country. And all I did was say, you know, here's what I've done. I'm a first-time novelist, and there are a lot of first-time novelists who have horror stories, and no one ever knows their book exists. So I wasn't trying to shove my book down anyone's throat. I just wanted them to know that it existed. And then it was up to them to buy it, to order it. And then it was up to people who read it to determine if it was worth reading. And I sold out of my first printing before it was even published. And then my publisher wanted to jump on the bandwagon. And then in the next book, they wanted to jump on the, but it was interviewed by Time Magazine and all these magazines, and then they got upset because I told on them. And the next, with Disappearing Acts, the same publicist said, you know, because they asked me, you know, what happened. I said, they didn't want to spend any money on me because I'm black. Simple as that, it was the truth. I said, all these white writers out here, they're going all around the world on book tours and all this. I can only get a press release, which are free. You know, and they read about how much they love the book. They put your money where your mouth is, what my mom used to say, and they didn't. So I did. And when Disappearing Acts came out, the little publicist says, I don't want to work on Terry McMillan's book, and she didn't.
How many copies? Because everybody talked about how many copies was your first print?
The first printing was supposed to be 7,500, but they always lie, you know that. And it was 5,000. But before, you know, bookstores order books in advance of the publication date. And my publication date was January 15th, 1987, I will never forget it. And in December, before Christmas, we had already sold out 75. It was more than 75, so they had to go back and do another printing. And I don't really know how many I sold altogether for the first one. I'm not real sure.
And then they increased to what for Disappearing Acts? First print.
I don't remember. I don't. I mean, there are writers that look on Amazon.com to see where they're ranked.
Right.
I've never done that.
Right.
I really haven't. And it's not because my books have sold so much, it's just because that can drive you crazy. It's like you check an email, you know?
Yeah.
No, I've never, I don't know. I know that I've sold a lot of books. That's
Right.
all I know.
Right.
And I'm grateful.
Now, by the time Disappearing Acts came out, you had established this new contemporary voice because when I was reading a lot of African American material, most of it was about slavery days.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot of interviews where you say, you know what, I've read all the slavery days book, but we don't have anything that's talking about what we're going through right now. So explain to the audience how important that was, the right now of our literature.
Well, you know, I mean, I sort of knew our history, and I didn't knock a lot of the books that have been written, and even about the civil rights movement, because there was a lot of protest literature written in the '60s that we needed.
Right.
We needed it, just like we needed books about slavery. And like right now, James McBride is writing about it again, but the way he's doing it was a little different. You ought to read James McBride. Who knows James McBride? Yes, right. Yes. Song Yet Sung. Read it. But, you know, I write about what is bothering me.
Yeah.
And at the time, you know, I fictionalize. Everybody thinks that your work is all autobiographical, but, you know, I made up stuff. With Jonathan and, was it Stella? You know, none of that stuff happened. Two things happened. Two things. And other than that, it was all fabricated.
Yeah.
I mean, I make it up so that you believe it. And, but that's what fiction is. It's a lie that you tell to tell a truth. That's all it is. And sometimes many truths. But, I wanted to know I wanted to explore what it felt like to be a black man and to feel castrated, to feel like less than a man because you made some bad choices and you were not employable and you were with a woman who was. And also, from the woman's point of view, how